Very warm welcome, everybody. My name's Andy Edmond from Equity Development, and I'm very pleased to be joined by Neil Clark today. Neil is the CEO of Destiny Pharma, an AIM-listed development company in the pharmaceutical sector. IPO'd about 3 years ago, I think, nearly now, Neil, isn't it?
Yes,
and is under the ticker DEST. And it's a very exciting time for you, Neil. All development companies in the sector have to develop the products, go through trials, and you are hopefully coming to the end of a phase 2B trial. And of course, we have all been wrestling with the pandemic in recent months, which I would imagine has highlighted the long-term threat and danger of AMR, which was behind the formation of Destiny. So perhaps you can give us a bit of background about what the company does, what you hope to do, and how the current situation is moving, both in respect of the trials and COVID-19.
Yeah, no, thanks, Andy, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to give a short update on Destiny Pharma. So yeah, Destiny Pharma is a company that's a UK biotech company that is 20 years old and has been dedicated in the last 10 to 15 years to developing novel anti-infectives. So these are improvements really on the traditional antibiotics. So we're looking to kill serious pathogens, superbugs, as listed by WHO as a real global clinical unmet need. So Destiny has its own intellectual property. Our founder and CSO, Bill Love, developed our XF platform. And as I said, we're targeting these superbugs. And also with our mechanism, we do address the key issue of antimicrobial resistance, where the world is seeing that, unfortunately, the older antibiotics are not really being effective against the superbugs because they can generate resistance. So this is a genuine global need. And there is a read across to the current COVID-19 or coronavirus pandemic. We're not an antiviral, we're not a virology company, so we're not targeting viruses direct. But unfortunately, many of the patients who have the serious COVID-19 infections are in hospitals, intensive care units, and unfortunately, the many people who unfortunately are dying are suffering from bacterial infections alongside the respiratory viral infections. And there's a lot of news out there in the literature, a lot of discussion amongst our peer group that this has highlighted yet again not only the need for obviously vaccines to prevent respiratory viruses such as COVID-19, but also the need for better treatments to address the bacterial infections. And Destiny is one of several companies that have been committed for several years now to bringing through new drugs. And we're very excited about the potential of our lead asset, which is targeting the reduction of hospital infection, but also looking for greater understanding and realization of the need for such drugs from pharma companies and others in the commercial sector, because there's clearly the recognition of the clinical need. WHO, UK, European, US governments all supporting companies developing new drugs, but there has historically been a lack of big pharma and perhaps commercial interest in new anti-infectives, but that's changing, and we're really looking forward to an exciting sort of second half of the year, but also a real push to the overall interest in anti-infectives.
And can you tell us a little bit more about XF73, the lead product? Because as I understand it, it seems to have taken quite a logical route of moving through the process and getting clearance, because it is very much aimed at preventing infections in the operating theatre rather than the complicated matter of treating it thereafter.
Yes, and we like the sort of the strap line of prevention is better than cure. Again, you can see that in COVID, where whether it's social distancing, hand washing, vaccines, that it's clear that the healthcare and of course the economic cost of not having infections in the first place is much better for everybody. And XF73 has been positioned to prevent hospital infections such as MRSA, which is methicillin-resistant Staph aureus infections. So these are infections caused by Staphylococcal aureus, which is a bacteria that many of us will have on us. I'm sitting here now talking to you with 50 billion bacteria on me, in me. And normally I'm in stasis, and it doesn't really cause me any problems. But carriage of Staph aureus in the nose, where a third of the patient is described as a high carrier of Staph aureus in the nose. If you have Staphylococcus aureus and you're going into hospital for a major operation, you have a 10 times greater risk of post-surgical infections. So we're developing a nasal gel that sits in the nose the day before, the day of surgery, and the day after, and decolonizes your nose, removing sort of 99% of those bacteria, and that prevents the majority of these post-surgical infections, we believe. And of course, the cost of an infection in terms of unpleasant, slow recovery for a patient, and at worst, very serious MRSA or Staph aureus infections that can get into the bloodstream is significant. And associated with that, of course, is a cash cost. It costs hospitals a lot of money to manage infections. So prevention is very logical from a clinical standpoint, but also an economic standpoint.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense. I'm sure there are products or antibiotics that are used at the moment to try and prevent infection to patients in this high-risk scenario. Can you contrast XF73, what it offers in terms of when it's applied, speed of efficacy, which obviously also has an implication on cost to the hospital as well?
Yes. So yes, it's a well-established procedure to screen patients going into for major surgeries. So this is heart operations, orthopedic operations, spinal surgery. A nasal swab can go into a machine, and you can see the doctors and nurses can see if you're a carrier of staph in the nose before the surgery. If you are a carrier, best practice is you are decolonized, and this has been well understood for many years, and is best practice largely across the world. The problem is, we believe, and I think it's confirmed through our market research, that there isn't really a modern effective drug that can be used for the nasal decolonization that also addresses antimicrobial resistance, which our XF platform clearly does. But the market, to some extent, has been established. There was a relatively old GSK antibiotic called mupirocin, which was moved into this nasal decolonization space by GSK many years ago, and has some success. But it's perhaps typical of the older class of antibiotics. It does a job, but it's perhaps a scruffy drug, if I can put it that way. It needs to be given 5 days before surgery. It has clear problems in terms of its generation of resistance. It's one of those old mechanisms of actions which is known to generate resistance, particularly in Staph aureus. So again, hospitals have problems prescribing a drug that they know generates resistance, and we clearly sort of beat it on several of the better attributes of the XF73 nasal gel. Clearly beats mupirocin. 1 day dosing prior to surgery. We have obviously microbiological data and Oxford University analysis published this year that supports our claim that we have much better AMR profile. In fact, we don't see resistance generation against MRSA, for instance, in published papers. Also, a non-irritant status, a very benign formulation. So several factors we believe that XF73 has the potential to be a market leader. Also, in terms of our support from the FDA, which is the America's drug agency, that we have support from their division of infectious diseases in terms of they've awarded us QIDP status, which is qualifying infectious disease product status. And they give this to innovative companies who are bringing through drugs that they believe obviously are needed and will deliver solutions that are needed for the clinical need. So the XF73 has been awarded that. And we think that's recognition of our novelty. And also, as there is no approved drug for nasal decolonization in America, drugs are used off-label. If we're successful in our phase 2 and then phase 3 studies and applications, we will be the gold standard. And that is a blockbuster market, potentially $1 billion peak sales. So it's a big opportunity. We have support, as I said, from the FDA. We also have one commercial partner, China-Asia partnership with China Medical Systems. So I think we have validation from third parties of the quality of the science and the clinical and commercial opportunity. But as ever, it's up to us to deliver the clinical data to support our case.
Yeah, and you've had, I suppose, bad news and good news in the context of that phase 2B trial. Earlier in the year, understandably, hospitals were very committed to dealing with COVID patients. But just in the last couple of weeks, the FDA have made your task in populating that trial considerably easier, it seems.
Yes, yes, it was. I mean, if people who saw the IPO presentation back in the autumn of 2017 may recall that we talked then of a phase 2 study size of 100 to 150. Actually, when we started the phase 2 in 2019, we said at the time, I looked at the press release recently, we said that we were doing perhaps the largest study possible, 200 patients. So it was always on the top side. And the fact is, we recruited, I think, 77 patients as we entered into sort of pre-COVID, as it were. So we'd learned a lot about the study in terms of patient recruitment and the type of patient we were recruiting. So when COVID slowed down the study, and we knew the FDA was open for a discussion to amend the protocol, and that's critical because, of course, you can amend protocols, you can change things, but what's important is that the quality of the study and its statistical significance is not weakened, because obviously what we want to do is deliver a quality phase 2 study, and then we can move into hopefully into the phase 3 studies, which of course are hopefully the final studies before any market application. So we approached the FDA. This is led by our Chief Medical Officer, Jesus Gonzalez, and they were very supportive. We made a very good case, but also it hopefully reflects the QIDP and our fast track status, but they accepted our adjustments to the type of patient we were recruiting. So we decided to refine the patient population coming into the study, which is effectively looking at the level of their carriage of Staph aureus in the nose. And previously we'd had perhaps a more heterogeneous population, and now it's a more targeted group. And that meant we now need 125 patients to deliver a high quality phase 2 data set, whereas before we needed 200. That's quite a big reduction, but the key message is it's not reduced the quality of the output from the phase 2 data, which now we hope will finish recruitment this year. Data will come around year end, could be before, could be just after. We'll obviously update in the autumn. But for us, that was a very good result. We're funded through to the end of 2021. So as a relatively small biotech company, it's great to be in control of the destiny of our lead asset. So we're very excited of coming out of COVID. Hospitals are opening up, as we read about in the papers. They are looking to do surgeries. We're targeting open heart surgeries, and we're hopeful there's a little bit of a backlog from the fact that operations have been put on hold for 3 or 4 months, and we need to find the final 50 patients to complete the study, get the data, at the same time beginning to build our phase 3 preparation, and obviously we'll talk to the regulators when we have that phase 2 data.
Great. So the next few months sound as if they're proceeding in a more rapid execution of the trial than you would have previously hoped, which would presumably save a little bit of money as well, without damaging the quality of the outcome. And you mentioned cash. Year-end results, to the year-end April, you had £7.5 million, I think, was available there. So you're in a good position. But taking a drug through to commercialization is an expensive business.
Yes.
What is the strategic thinking, which I'm sure you now must be very much turning your mind to for early next year, and how you would finance phase 3? Would that involve a partnership? Is it too early to start thinking about licensing XF73 if it gets a good trial reading?
Definitely, our strategy has always been to seek partnerships. We're not a company at the moment, and I guess that could change in future years, but definitely for the next few years, we're not a company that talks about having our own sales and marketing infrastructure. So seeking partners for our programs, and we have an earlier pipeline as well, is a key part of the strategy. So definitely phase 2 data will be a trigger for closing deals, hopefully. But in the meantime, we are having discussions. So we've had discussions recently and over recent years with good quality companies who are interested in what we're doing. Obviously, as always, they want to see data, but we are heartened by recent discussions we've had from companies that we think know what they're doing, and have been out in the market talking to hospitals in their regions and getting good feedback on what we see as great potential of XF73 as a new preventative treatment. So always need to be careful promising deals, but definitely it's a key strategy. And also, of course, it not only brings money to help co-fund phase 3 studies, it also brings expertise, because some of the companies, of course, are not just pure marketing companies, as it were, they're also specialty pharma who are also good at drug development. So we have a very flexible approach. It's about delivering the right partner and also shareholder value. And we've done one deal already with China Medical Systems, which we struck sort of at the IPO. Again, a very active specialty pharma company, and we have a good relationship with them. So we're looking to do more deals, but really phase 2 data is the trigger, I think, for securing the right type of deal.
Yeah. And perhaps just to wrap up, it has to be worth mentioning that XF73 is not your only product in development. It is a platform from which you can try and address other problems related to ocular or dermal infections. Can you say a little bit more about the pipeline that Destiny is building up?
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely. Not only do we have ambitions with the whole XF platform, but also, we want to build a bigger company in this space. So, and we think there is an opportunity there. Obviously, we need to be steady and deliver phase 2 data and move forward. But there is opportunity and a clear need for a bigger biotech company focusing on novel anti-infectives. So that's part of the broader strategy. But in the short term, the XF platform, we have our lead program in phase 2. We have a dermal program that we're looking to bring towards the clinic, which is the same compound XF73 targeting diabetic foot ulcer infections. Again, a clear market where our target product profile, fast, safe, effective, and also addressing antimicrobial resistance. These are all important things for drugs in this space. And then earlier programs, which are earlier stage, but also important to note, we've won, I think, over £2 million worth of grant funding since the IPO, which is helping fund a lot of this work where we're working with expert groups. We have a UK-China grant, but also UK anti-infective projects running with universities, Southampton, Sheffield, Aston, Cardiff. And these are good projects, and we're hopeful that they'll throw up, clarify other clinical candidates from the XS platform over the next 6 to 12 months. And there are indeed other grant opportunities. So we're looking at those as well. Indeed, we're hoping in the future that potentially bigger grants supporting clinical studies. That is something that we're looking to do. Again, can't promise anything, saying that in the short term, but definitely there is that possibility, again, in this whole area of anti-infectives, where there's a lot of non-dilutive funding that is supporting innovation in this area.
Great. Well, it's great to see a British company leading the way in what is a global and a very serious problem to deal with. So we wish you very much plenty of luck in the coming weeks, important period. And I'm sure the same goes for all the patients that have been or might suffer from such infections in the future. So thank you very much for your time, Neil.
Thanks very much, Andy. Talk again.